So guys, we have to talk about My Hero Academia chapter 338. I don't know why, but it's chapters like these that I love more than the action-packed chapters. Mainly because chapters like My Hero Academia chapter 338 gives us an opportunity for theorizing on the future of the series, while also giving us so much more character interaction and development. And for me, that allows me to analyze the characters a little bit deeper to see how they're going to move in the future. And boy, do I have a lot to talk about when it comes to Class A. I actually have no idea where I want to start, so I think we should actually start by subscribing to the channel and post notification bells on if you're new, because chicken nuggets is always good with potato sauce. My Hero Academia chapter 338 is titled The Story of How We All Became Heroes Part 1. And to me, that brought me all the way back to My Hero Academia chapter 324, where Class A effectively got Deku back into UA, and Ochako just concluded her speech that slightly changed the perspective of all the civilians inside of UA, allowing Deku to stay there. In the last couple of pages of that chapter, the narration from Deku went from "this is the story of how I became the greatest hero" to "this is the story of how we all became the greatest hero." Meaning this is a chapter that we all need to analyze a little bit deeper when it comes to Class A, because if this is now the story of how Class A became the greatest heroes, and the chapter is literally the story of how we all became heroes, then the ideology of what it means to be a hero for a Class A who are going to be the greatest heroes will be expressed in this chapter, which allows us to look at the future of the series and predict how society is going to be held with them in charge. Or not in charge, but as the influence for the next generation of heroes. Now in this chapter, we continue with the end of the speech that Deku gave to Aoyama in My Hero Academia chapter 337, where he essentially proclaimed that just because Aoyama did a bad deed, that doesn't make him a villain for the rest of his life, and that as long as his heart does not lose hope, he still can become a hero. But 𝚲𝚘𝚎 immediately prevents Deku from continuing his conversation with Aoyama and tells Officer Sansa to cover Aoyama's mouth. Now I love 𝚲𝚘𝚎's character interaction with Class A in this chapter, because he's the one who's thinking a little bit more logically and expresses his thoughts openly to Deku and Class A about the severity of this situation. He mentions that they have to restrain Aoyama and his parents, not just because they have been helping All For One with criminal activities, but because there still is a slight chance that All For One could have booby-trapped Aoyama in some way, shape, or form, and him talking or touching Deku could activate something that effectively blows him up. Now I know this may sound weird, but the interaction that 𝚲𝚘𝚎 has with Deku is almost like a father having to talk with his son about why he can't have everything that he wants, where he pretty much says it's okay to have a pure heart and want to help Aoyama right now, but we can't trust him all the way. And I actually support 𝚲𝚘𝚎 in this decision, because if the only reason why Aoyama became the traitor is because he wanted to protect his family from All For One killing them, then who's to say if All For One were to somehow find out that he is revealed to be the UA traitor, that he wouldn't just use his parents as actual hostage for Aoyama and have Aoyama betray Class A and the heroes yet again. Even though Aoyama hates the fact that he had to do what he did, it's a 99.9% chance that he would do it again if All For One were to find out that he was exposed as the traitor. So even though Deku and Class A do believe that Aoyama can become a hero again, 𝚲𝚘𝚎 is absolutely correct in his assessment that it's okay to believe that he can be a hero, but certain protocols need to be assessed, and Aoyama and his parents' body need to be looked at immediately at Central Hospital to see if they're booby-trapped in any way, shape, or form. Now when it comes to Class A, I was actually fascinated that everyone was on board with saving Aoyama. Well, not really, because I was the one who was promoting the fact that it makes no sense for them to understand that Aoyama was not at fault for what he did and they still be mad at him. So I 100% believe that they were going to accept Aoyama back immediately. But what I mean by what I say is that it seems like all of their ideologies are one, where it's similar to Deku's ideology of wanting to save everyone. Now originally, as I said earlier, I thought that this was really fascinating, but then as I was reading the lines of Ida, where he says we have to let bygones be bygones, we didn't realize what was truly going on in his heart, and we're unable to reach out to him when he needed us the most. We have to shoulder some kind of responsibility. That's why now, while our classmate is crying and wallowing in despair, we must lend a helping hand as friends. When Ida said those words, I immediately thought about My Hero Academia chapter 321 to 323, which is the pursuit of Class A to bring Deku back. And this is important because in that story, Deku was essentially the Aoyama of that story, where Ida saying in My Hero Academia chapter 338 that Class 1A truly didn't understand what was going on in his heart and was unable to reach out to him when he needed us the most, and that now while their classmate is crying and wallowing in despair, Class A must lend a helping hand as friends. That was quite literally Deku. Now the reason why that is quite fascinating to me is because while I was rereading those chapters, I started to realize that the individual ideologies of the core group inside of Class A seemingly goes hand in hand with Deku's ideology. The core members being Deku, Bakugo, Shoto, Ida, and Ochako, where Ida wants to become a hero that will dash across the land to take a lost child by the hand, because giving help that's not asked for is what makes a true hero. And Ochako's ideology of heroism connects more to who will save the heroes that need saving. The point is, Ida and Ochako's philosophy, at least to me, seems to connect more to Deku with the idea that he wants to save everyone with a smile. And even when you look at Shoto, who is another parallel to Deku, and that in his battle with Toya during the Paranormal Liberation War arc, he was trying to get understanding rather than trying to actually fight his brother, which is similar to what Deku was doing with characters like Muscular and Lady Nagan and effectively Shigaraki whenever they fight against each other. So Shoto is also a hero, even though he hasn't articulated his values necessarily verbatim, but he's a hero who seemingly wants to help the redeemable. And Bakugo, we don't know nothing about Bakugo. Bakugo is Bakugo. We need more about Bakugo, so we're gonna get that later, hopefully. But being that the ideologies of Deku is seeping to the core 5 members of Class A, which is effectively seeping to all of Class A, makes me super excited about the end of My Hero Academia, and I actually have a fascinating idea about how My Hero Academia is going to end and how Hero Society could be with the new generation of heroes taking over. So if you want that, put hashtag chicken nuggets in the comment section and make sure you like this video. Chapters like these are the chapters that I love because I can go back into the story and really peel out as much information as I possibly can. Plus, these aren't scripted. But continuing, we do see that Bakugo is kind of mad, it seems, at Aoyama. And I don't know if this is for show because, again, this is like a Bakugo-esque type of thing that he would do. But I guess it would make sense why Bakugo would kind of be upset because Aoyama was the reason why he went through a hell. And if Bakugo is upset, I do want to see a one-on-one interaction between Aoyama and Bakugo next chapter. But everyone else seemingly understands Aoyama's trouble. And Kirishima pretty much sums everything up perfectly. Class A understands that Aoyama thought it was impossible to be All For One, and that he had no other options but to obey him. But now that they know what All For One did to him, it's a little bit different. Because Deku with his speech gave him a chance to break free of everything. And Kirishima continues to say, as I mentioned earlier, that Class A just had a rogue mission to bring back Deku. And that it's foolish for him to really think that any one of the members in Class A would blame him for being quirkless. Especially because they have to hide their secret and pain and have no choice but to live a particular life. This hits Aoyama very hard because he still doesn't understand why Class A are believing in him. But interestingly enough, it hits Deku just as hard because Deku is literally the parallel of Aoyama. Being that Deku was quirkless and was given a quirk that would effectively change his life forever, it just so happened that the person that gave him a quirk was the quite literal opposite of the person that gave Aoyama his quirk. So the only difference between Deku and Aoyama was circumstances that they could not control. Which is why it makes sense why Deku in every single panel of this chapter is crying his eyes out. Now the end of the chapter brings so many potential theories to the fold, where the GOAT himself, Aizawa Sensei, who I've missed so much in the My Hero Academia story, comes back and asks Deku if he had a plan in mind. To which Deku says no, and Aizawa Sensei thought that that would be the case. Now another thing that I really loved about this chapter was the character interaction between Aizawa Sensei and Aoyama, where he tells Tsukauchi that he takes full responsibility for not seeing that this is happening under their noses. However, he feels the exact same as Class A. Now I say all the time that the words that Aizawa Sensei says is way more impactful than the words that Say and All Might says. Because Aizawa Sensei literally sacrificed everything he had for his class. He got mollywopped in the USJ, he almost lost his job for the forest raid and the Camino incident, he almost lost his life again in the Paranormal Liberation War arc, and he sacrificed his own status as a hero to take complete responsibility for everything that happened to Class A. So when Aizawa Sensei told Aoyama that he had zero intention of expelling him from UA, that made me go crazy. But that's not just all Aizawa Sensei came into the chapter for, because he says as a teacher in charge of Class A, he has come up with a plan that could potentially stop All For One. And it's possible that Aoyama can somehow be a part of that mission. But he wouldn't know because Aizawa Sensei asked Tsukauchi to cover Aoyama and his parents' ears, because although everyone is on the bandwagon of accepting Aoyama back, he still is the UA traitor. Now I do have a video that I'm going to publish about what I think this plan will be, because this is obviously a cliffhanger of information that we don't know. But I kind of think that I know the potential characters that are going to be important, especially when you consider that Nezu says, although we still need more conclusive evidence, the course of action does seem exceedingly practical. And All Might is in the background saying it depends on him though. While Tsukauchi is saying, but is it worthwhile while to even attempt it. I know this doesn't seem like a lot of information, but actually it is. So if you want that video, let me know in the comment section below as well, and also let me know what you think Aizawa Sensei's plan to take down All For One is. But we finished this chapter with Class A back in the dorms, and Toru Higakure says we will definitely defeat them. To which Class A, all with very angry, serious faces, all says yes, which was another fan-freaking-tastic page when I read it. But what's even more fantastic is the fact that Deku and Ida are effectively going to 𝚗𝚗𝚗 to get a new hero costume. And although I'm excited to see what Deku's new hero costume is, because I personally believe that his new hero costume will be made in such a way that the second user's quirk will be able to be activated by him. So be on the lookout to see if you see any gauntlet-like things on his arms, because that might give a hint as to what the second user's quirk is. But I'm actually more interested in Ida's hero costume, mainly because a few months ago, Horikoshi had a drawing of Ida with a new mask on his face indicating a new hero costume. And that mask made Ida look like the dopest character out of everybody. So I'm super excited to see what happens with Ida. Because Ida is really fast, and he's actually running to subscribe button to get more My Hero Academia content uploaded into his YouTube feed. Win your zone every single day.